Hey there, folks. Almost ready. Don't think there's anybody connected quite yet. There we go. Oh, we're pulling off. Okay. Get Amazon off of here. Okay. This one will be quick. We'll do this one. And then we'll dive into our tipster. Okay, hello. Welcome to the live stream. This is my working space, basically. I'm going to be doing more and more of this as time goes on, where I try to keep myself occupied or and whatnot. But I might as well, share what it is that I'm doing with everybody else, so that you can see kind of what other things get done here. So yeah, let's see here. Some good conversation from the Editors Club, Podcast Editors Club. Let's see. Transcript beta version. Okay, so yeah, like I'm saying here, my goal here today is mainly just to keep myself somewhat occupied. I'm going to be continuing to talk about what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Mainly just because it helps me stay focused. It helps me know. Yeah, it looks like I've got a couple people in here. Welcome, welcome. You are welcome here. Glad to see some folks. If you are on, introduce yourself in the chat. Say hi, where you come from, things like that. I'd love to see where you're at and things like that. If you're having a work day, I'd love to hear about it. Let me get my workspace switched around here. Oh, okay. Let's change this window. See if it will let me. Oh, let's flip this around then. OBS here real quick. Every now and again, this gets a little wonky. So it... Oh, no, it's showing the right one. Okay, good. That's good. Let me pull my Chrome window over here, as well as OBS, so that doesn't get in the way. Very good. Okay. Hi there, everybody. Welcome to my live stream. Again, I'll be hanging out, just kind of doing my thing mostly, but I'll talk my way through it and talk about what it is that I'm doing, all of that. This is just kind of a time for me to work. But if you want to hang out with me, I would love to have you hang out with me. If you could have any questions about anything in specific, about what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, anything like that from a technical aspect or a how to, I'd love to answer any questions that I can. Okay, so I am. Need to work on this here real quick. Get the window space here taken care of. Toggle inspector height. There we go. Okay, so I can totally live with that. Oh, that's the thing that I'm doing here. That's weird. Okay, now if I toggle inspector height, it'll work better. Okay, cool. Okay, so this is a video podcast. It was captured on. It was captured via Zoom, so the quality is rather low. I am not going to go through the process of color grading, trying to correct this type of thing because there's just not enough information to do so. The content's great though. This is a good conversation. Also, all I have is the combined audio that's in this video. So I've ran it through RX, tried to improve it as best as I can using some basic stuff, and we'll do what we can. Tony, welcome to the stream. I'm glad that you're here. I know that we need to talk offline, quote unquote offline, because it's always online for you and I. Let's about what's going on and how I can help you get launched. You guys have such a great story. I want to be able to share it. With that said, I'm going to play this back. Let me make sure that my system audio is working.
53 years old.
Nope. Let's go ahead and make sure that I've got my output set properly. There we go.
New Philadelphia, Ohio.
So I'm just going to let this play for a minute. I've made a couple cursory edits. Honestly, I didn't actually listen while I was doing it. I was just making some camera changes based on what I was seeing. I'm going to go ahead and play it, and then I'm going to play it all the way through. This is about 15 minutes worth of audio, and then we'll go from there. In fact, I'm going to step away while I play this.
Hey everyone, this is Dave Albrecht. I'm from New Philadelphia, Ohio. I am 53 years old and I am rebuilt.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the I Am Rebuilt series, episode 2 this week. Guys, if you watched the first episode, you know what these talks are all about. We're highlighting a life transformation. We're highlighting a success story. We're highlighting a rebuilt man. So I have here with me today, my brother here. We're on week 16. This is the final week. Dave has successfully rebooted his life. He's successfully become a new man. So Dave, can you intro yourself here to the viewers? Who are you, where you're from, and where were you before reaching out? What had you been struggling with? How long had this really been an issue? And what had you tried previous to reaching out that just hadn't worked?
Yeah, so for everybody watching, my name is Dave Albrecht. I live in New Philadelphia, Ohio, where it's nice and cold right now, waiting for spring. But yeah, I like a lot of other men that maybe are watching this. I struggled with porn for quite a while, really. I mean, probably 30 years. I hate to say that. I'm 53, so yeah, I have to. It's a long time, and that's a lot of rewiring to do, But and I was in a really dark place, and it used to just be a casual thing, and I started realizing that it started getting worse and worse and more, frequent and really impacting my life in a negative way, including my marriage. And I knew in the back of my mind, I was like, I've got an issue, and I actually have a brother-in-law who struggled with drug addiction, and I used to be very critical of him. And then, one day, I told myself, you're no better, dude. You're you're the same thing, just a different addiction, And I didn't realize the power that addiction had on me, and then you know, um, I was just kind of fed up with myself, and I tried different things on my own, and I didn't know of the science behind it and how you really truly do need to rewire your brain and how the dopamine hits and all that. That if you've watched Frank's YouTube videos, he does an excellent job explaining that to you because I truly had to learn and understand that. And then once you do, it's easy to understand why you're stuck on this cyclical cycle that you can't get off on. And so that really helped me. And Frank, you can interrupt me anytime if I'm rambling on or if you
No,
have
you're
more.
doing
Okay.
you're doing great. I think you said something that every single one of us, myself, with my story and everybody watching this, uh, whether or not we're going to call it an addiction, we're still figuring out, like, is that the best word? I mean, it's such a word that has a dirty kind of context layered over it, but I think it gets the point across. But you said something there where it's like you had struggled, 30 plus years. It's like you knew kind of in the back of the mind, like, probably even while partaking in it, or not if in the act, but immediately after, it's like we all know, like, there's just something wrong. So with that, like, what was it that really drove you or motivated you to reach out, in the manner that you did?
Yeah, I didn't like the person I was becoming because it actually um it does create depression within, and it was destroying me. I was like, man, I'm just like a totally different person. I was irritated, I was angry, and I know it was my own guilt weighing on me because um it was just holding me back from becoming the man that God created me to be. It really was. And so I was just at a point where I was like, this thing is bigger than me. I need help, and that's really hard for a man, because I don't know, it's kind of within our instinct that, we like to fix things and fix problems. And when you can't, it's very frustrating.
Yeah, no, we're
You know,
created, to serve, to protect, and like you said, to fix things and problem solve. Like, that is a part of our purpose here on the world, and getting to the point where it's like understanding, like, hey, we're to a point where, like, we're not going to get out of this on our own. Like, that's really hard. I mean, it was hard for me. It's hard for every man, but um, one thing for you, and I think you can really speak to this. It's like that power of that decision. It's the power of actually taking a step. One thing I noticed from the beginning, from our first initial conversation of talking about, the actual program, and then every single week, it's like when something needed to happen, it's like I knew Dave was going to get it done. So can you talk about, like, that change? Because there was a change in you from the first day I spoke to you to just a couple days later when we had our initial first call. There was, like, I was already speaking to a different man. So can you kind of talk about that initial experience of, like, when you reached out and kind of got it off your chest, like, what did that do for you? Like, knowing, like, hey, I'm not the only one struggling with this. But the power of decision, the power of taking action, like, how did that change you, right out of the gate? Like, knowing, like, hey, I'm actually taking action to move this. So two-part question. Um, you know, what was your kind of initial, response, reaction to getting involved, and then, how did that kind of change you?
yeah, I mean, I'll never forget the day that I was driving to work in the morning, and I picked up my phone and I started. I just, YouTube's full of information. I was like, porn addiction, I think I put in there. And I watched a couple short videos, and then I did come across yours, Frank, and it really hooked me in, and I watched it. I just the way with somebody who's been through it can relate. So it just had this like, I don't know, instantly I felt this trust, like, yeah, I mean, this guy's like spot on. Plus, we just had a lot of similarities, with struggles, which I think everybody will find we all have the same struggles that there in similarities. But and I was like, I listened to the program, and then I reached out, and I tell you what, just the reaching out was exactly, I didn't know it at the time, but it was exactly what I needed. I needed to tell somebody. And I'm a very private person, so that's very hard. I mean, I'm not.
His life.
Okay, I'm back. Had to step away for a minute to help the wife with something. Let's go ahead and actually dive in now that you've had a chance to kind of see the raw of what we're working on. Let's go ahead and go through some of the cutting up. Now, all I'm going to be doing is switching between cameras, and I have 3 different views available to me. So I have a combo that I created of the 2 of them side by side. I have a solo shot that you can see here in the preview window of just Frank, and I have one of just Dave. So you can see all those there, and I can quickly switch between those by going 1, 2, or 3 on my keyboard. So it's really very, very pretty straightforward in that regard. So let's go ahead and make sure that these edits were good. Again, I apologize. I had to step away for a moment.
He's successfully.
And I'm going to turn that volume down just a hair. It's a little loud in comparison to the rest of it.
And I am rebuilt.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the I Am Rebuilt series, episode 2 this week. Guys, if you watched the first episode, you know what these talks are all about. We're highlighting a life transformation. We're highlighting a success story. We're highlighting a rebuilt man. So I have here with me today, my brother here. We're on week 16. This is the final week. Dave has successfully rebooted his life. He's successfully become a new man. So, Dave, can you intro yourself here to the viewers? Who are you? Where you're from? And where were you before reaching out? What have you been struggling with? How long had this really been an issue? And what had you tried previous to reaching out that just hadn't worked?
Yeah. So for everybody watching, my name is Dave Albrecht. I live in New Philadelphia, Ohio, where it's nice and cold right now, waiting for spring. But I like a lot of other men that maybe are watching this. I struggled with porn for quite a while, really. I mean, probably 30 years. I hate to say that. I'm 53, so yeah, I have to. It's a long time, and that's a lot of rewiring to do, But and I was in a really dark place, and it used to just be a casual thing, and I.
By the way, I should probably mention, it's probably a little late for that, and not that I imagine that there's any kids here, but this is probably not kid-worthy content. This is real talk from men who have been dealing with addiction to pornography and their work on getting clean of that. So that's just something to be mindful of. If you've got kids around, don't have them around on this unless they're of the age that they need to learn this. They need to find out what the pitfalls are and address them before they become an issue. So you can kind of look at it from both ends on this, but just know that this is a bit of a sensitive topic. Okay, let's go back to this. And I'm actually going to play it back at double speed because I don't need to listen to it this slowly.
I was in a really dark place, and it used to just be a casual thing, and I started realizing that it started getting worse and worse and more frequent, and really impacting my life in a negative way, including my marriage. And I knew in the back of my mind, I was like, I've got an issue, and I actually have a brother-in-law who struggled with drug addiction, and I used to be very critical of him. And then, one day, I told myself, you're no better, dude. You're the same thing, just a different addiction, and I didn't realize the power that addiction had on me, and then it, I was just kind of fed up with myself. I tried different things on my own. I didn't know of the science behind it, and how you really truly do need to rewire your brain, and how the dopamine hits, and all that. And if you've watched Frank's YouTube videos, he does an excellent job explaining that. I truly had to learn to understand that. And then once you do, it's easy to understand why you're stuck on this cyclical cycle that you can't get off on. And so that really helped me. And Frank, you can interrupt me anytime if I'm rambling on. If you
You're doing great. I think you said.
So that's a changeover that I'm needing to watch.
It's easy to understand why you're stuck on this cyclical cycle that you can't get off on, and so that really helped me. And Frank, you can interrupt me.
So this was one of those areas where I was kind of just looking at the waveform and not sure quite what was going on. This is a small little edit or change that I'll make.
Really helped me. And Frank, you can interrupt me anytime if I'm rambling on. If
You're doing great. I think you said something that, every single one of us, myself, with my story and everybody watching this, whether or not we're gonna call it an addiction, we're still, figuring out, like, is that the best word? I mean, it's such a word that has a dirty kind of context laid over it, but I think it gets the point across. But he said something there where it's like you struggled, 30 plus years. It's like you knew kind of in the back of the mind, like, probably even while partaking in it, or not in the act, but immediately after, it's like we all know, like, there's just something wrong. So with that, like, what was it that really drove you or motivated you to reach out, in the manner that you did?
Yeah, I didn't like the person I was becoming, because it actually it does create depression within.
Okay, so
to reach out, in the manner that you did.
Wrong button. Let's go Dave Solo.
Yeah, I didn't like the person I was becoming, because it actually it does create depression within, and it was destroying me. I was like, I'm just like a totally different person. I was irritated, I was angry, and I know it was my own guilt weighing on me, because it was just holding me back from becoming the man that God created me. It really was. And so I was just at a point where I was like, this thing is bigger than me. I need help, and that's really hard for a man, because I don't know, it's kind of within our instinct that, we like to fix things and fix problems, and when you can't, it's very frustrating.
Yeah, we're created, to serve, to protect, and like you said, to fix things and problem solve.
Okay, so here we have another time where Frank is jumping in there. It's hard for me to tell when that's going to happen, because I can't separate the voices. Hopefully, we'll see another podcast here in a bit after we get done with this one, which shouldn't take too long. This is only about 15 minutes long, so we're on about a third of the way through actually on this one. Most of the work was in the setting it up, getting the bones put together. Okay, I'm gonna step away again for a second, get my dog back inside, and then we'll continue on through this. I'm trying to turn the music. It's horrible. I didn't pick it. Okay, and I'm back. Sorry about that. Every 5 minutes I get stopped. Which is part of the reason I'm trying to do this. It's because I want to limit
I need help,
those.
Okay,
here we go.
and it's hard for a man, because I don't know, it's kind of within our instinct that, we like to fix things and fix problems, and when you can't, it's very frustrating.
Yeah, we're created, to serve, to protect, and like you said, to fix things and problem solve. Like, that is a part of our purpose here on the world, and getting to the point where it's like understanding, like, hey, we're to a point where, like, we're not gonna get out of this on our own. Like, that's really hard. I mean, it's hard for me, it's hard for every man, but one thing for you, and I think.
Okay, that's a good spot to go to Frank Solo here. I like to do this in a word gap, not necessarily in a sentence gap, but a word gap, and
it's hard for me. It's hard for every man. But one thing.
And actually, what I can do in this case, I can't do it all the time, but in this case, he's got a big there that's kind of annoying. So I'm just going to add another splice there and remove that.
Hard. It's hard for me. It's hard for every man. But one thing for you, and
I really wish that I could remove that mouth click there, but just not enough data, not enough stuff. But you can hear it very clearly.
For every man. But one thing.
Right there. I do it from time to time, I know, but yeah, it is what it is. Okay, here we go.
It's hard for every man, but one thing for you, and I think you can really speak to this. It's like that power of that decision. It's the power of actually taking a step. One thing I noticed from the beginning, from our first initial conversation of talking about the actual program, and then every single week, it's like when something needed to happen, it's like I knew Dave was going to get it done. So can you talk about like that change? Because there was a change in you from the first day I spoke to you to just a couple days later when we had our initial first call. There was like I was already speaking to a different man. So can you kind of talk about that initial experience of like when you reached out and you kind of got it off the chest, like what did that do for you? Like knowing like, hey, I'm not the only one struggling with this. But the power of decision, the power of taking action, like how did that change you? Right out of the gate, like knowing like, hey, I'm actually taking action to move this. So two-part question. What was your kind of initial response reaction to getting involved and then how did that kind of change you?
Another time, I've got a little bit of a gap, probably in just internet lag here. So I'm going to try to pull that out. Still want to make it feel natural, but I'm going to remove that.
To getting involved and then how did that kind of change you?
Yeah, I mean I'll never forget the day that I was driving to work in the morning and I picked up my phone and I just YouTube's full of information. I was like porn addiction, I think I put in there, and I watched a couple short videos, and then I did come across yours, Frank, and it really hooked me in, and I watched it. Just the way with somebody who's been through it can relate. So the way with
okay, so that's kind of a weird reset. I'm going to go ahead and use a camera switch to hide that, like that.
Hooked me in, and I watched it. With somebody who's been through it can relate. So it just had this like, I don't know, instantly I felt this trust, like, yeah, I mean, this guy's like Spawn. Plus we just had a lot of similarities, with struggles, which I think everybody will find we all have the same struggles and similarities. But and I was like, I listened to the program, and then I reached out, and I tell you what.
So once again, in that case, the mouth click was separate enough. I'm going to clear that out, actually. There, I just did one. Oh, Lord.
Program, and then I reached out, and I tell you what.
Actually, I'm going to remove the too.
And I was like, I listened to the program, and then I reached out, and I tell you what, just the reaching out was exactly, I didn't know it at the time, but it was exactly what I needed. I needed to tell somebody. And I'm a very private person, so that's very hard. I'm kind of an upbeat person, too, so I don't share bad news with people or, hey, I've got a porn addiction problem, can you help? And that's just not something that it's very hard to find somebody that you trust, that you're comfortable with. Even in a church setting, So, but I did feel like I was like, well, this guy's, he's on the other end of the planet here with me, on the other end of the United States anyway, and he doesn't know me. But he definitely knows what I've gone through. And just being able to tell somebody, and I know you and I had some conversations on the first couple meetings, and actually, when I actually had to tell my wife about my problem, which she knew, but it's very interesting. I actually had to tell my wife about my problem, which she knew, but it's very interesting. We actually just talked about this today. She's like, it's different now. She said, I knew. She goes, but I just swept it under the rug. And she says, now trust for you is different. It has grown.
So there's a good gap there. I'll tighten that up a little bit. Using a camera switch here. This is why I do the multicam thing, because it really does allow me, in a pretty natural way, clean these types of things up.
And she says, now my trust for you is different. It has grown. And she said, you're different. She said, I felt like I would just irritate you, and it really wasn't her irritating me. It was me being irritated with myself and who I was. I probably was irritated with her, but I was probably irritated with everybody around me.
Yeah, because you've been seeking out that.
Okay, so that's another time Frank jumps in. I need to switch back to that.
With myself and who I was. I probably was irritated with her, but I was probably irritated with everybody around me.
Yeah, because you've been seeking out that instant gratification and you've wired your reward system. And when I want something, I know where I can go get it. And if things are not going your way in the world and you don't have that as an option to go release yourself, then this is just not going to be the joy that it should be. So guys, anybody listening and watching Dave here, I mean, he's talking, for you married men, like, you think you're keeping something from your wife, like realize like she knows, and I would probably lean more towards what Dave's wife was, is they're gonna sleep in the because they do love you, they do care for you, and they don't want to come in and guilt and shame. Wives, they're just not equipped with the right tools as far as how to handle and navigate the initial conversations. But this is real, and realizing that whether or not you believe it's happening, it probably is creating tension in your relationship, even if your wife is not bringing it to you. So Dave, thank you so much for bringing that to light. I want to keep it short and wrap up here. Can you kind of just talk about your favorite part of the program, if there was anything, and what because it's been my goal with building this. It's like, yeah, we want to address the major problem of pornography, but we really want to make this more about coaching and building the man up to step into life that he never potentially thought he could live. So what did you learn about yourself through the program? If not you didn't know, and then what are you kind of most excited about kind of moving into this next season of your life completely free of pornography?
Yeah, Yeah.
So I'm gonna just remove the completely. We'll cut around here.
Of your life completely free of pornography.
Probably my favorite part of the program, one thing I really liked was just changing my morning routine. Really liked the starting your day off with gratitude, and just I'm a believer now to that starting your day with something positive, it kind of sets the table for the rest of the day. So it's very easy to find something to be grateful about. Really, we all are really blessed, even though the world can be chaotic. Each and every one of us, I do believe, have things that we can be grateful for, even in rough times. So that was a big takeaway I liked, and just developing morning structure, and then replacing such wasted time, viewing porn that sucks you in for hours out of the week. I did not realize the time that I got back, and then now flipping that and
okay, so there's a good reaction in the background by Frank. We'll cut around that.
Placing such wasted time, viewing porn that sucks you in for hours out of the week. I did not realize the time that I got back, and then now flipping that and finding dopamine hits in things that are positive, and they're far more fun than viewing porn. I promise you. When you get over the crest of that, they really are. But now my goal coming through this program is I'm so happy. Just when Frank asked me about doing this interview, I was like, absolutely, because I want to genuinely help somebody else feel that responsibility, because I know what it's like being just held down with that weight.
Yeah, and you and I spoke about that. Yeah, and you and I have spoken about that so many times, and that's been something that I've been looking forward to this part with you really since probably week 6 or 7. It's like just so you guys know, Dave is getting involved in his church and in his community and leading recovery tables. He's going to be doing some incredible things. God has amazing plans for his life, and this is really my goal with this program and building Rebuild Recovery. It's like I can help a lot of men, through the channel and through the podcast and through my direct coaching. I can impact a lot of people's lives. But if I'm going to build more days and more days and just be able to duplicate myself and then not send him out into the world, because he's going to be doing his own stuff. But this is building community, and just like Dave said, the most important part is finding that trusted person that you can open your heart up to, finding that trusted person that you feel safe with and you can talk about it. And then ultimately what you're going to realize very, very early on is that you are not the only person struggling with this. Millions of millions of men around the world. So to bring it home here, Dave, I want to give you an opportunity to speak to yourself, 4 to 6 months ago. Hundreds and thousands of men that will see this video in the next couple of years. These are the men that are where you were at before you and I met. These are the men that are, perhaps questioning, like, can I actually do this? Many times I think we get to the point when we're really, in the depths of the addiction, really in some of those darker places. We question if we can even be fixed. So I want to give you an opportunity here to just speak to the men that are maybe, on the fence or maybe curious, like, can I rebuild myself? Can I reboot my brain? Can I go through the process that Dave went through and turn my life around? So what do you say to the guy that's kind of on the fence right now of really figuring out, like, hey, can I actually do this?
So I'm going to cut out a little bit of that gap once again. There we go.
I'm really figuring out, like, hey, can I actually do this?
Yeah, the first thing that comes into my mind is I was in a church service one day, and the pastor was to an event that he wanted to go to. It was a paid event, and I didn't say how much it was or anything, but somebody questioned him about it, like, oh man, you're gonna go pay to go see this for that conference, that kind of money, and he was like, am I not worth it? And that really hit home to me. That was probably about a year ago. But all I can say for the men out there that are on the fence, and please, please, please pull the trigger and do it. I mean, is it work? Yes, but it's really for me. I can honestly say it wasn't horribly difficult. It took a little bit to get the morning routine, maybe get up a half hour earlier and go through the weekly assignments that are given to you. Read the scriptures, practice gratitude, practice journaling. I've got my journal right here. It was that was something new to me. I wasn't a journaling guy, and I'm not going to lie, I don't journal every day. I should. I'm working on that. I'd say, but please, if I could just close out saying you're worth it. Invest in yourself. I mean, you have to. If you don't, you're just not going to get anywhere. You're not going to overcome it. But you can do it. You really can. And the time that Frank has spent developing this program, I mean, I can't say enough about it. It worked for me, and it works for me. It's got to work for anybody because I'm not, So that's my.
Small tiny little sound there, probably. Go ahead and clear that out.
It worked for me, and it works for me. It's got to work for anybody because I'm not, some mastermind genius out here. So,
guys, it's a proven formula. The world's only fully integrated, holistic approach, backed by science, integrating health, integrating your brain, getting your heart. That's what it's all here. But just like they said, we need you. Every single one of you watching this video, God gave you a dream in your heart, and we need you to step. One of you watching this video, God gave you a dream in you.
So we have an internet dropout there. Let me do this here real quickly. Kind of hide this dropout a little bit because it does kind of pick up at the beginning of a statement.
One of you watching this video, God gave you a dream in your heart, and we need you to step into that life. We need you to become the man that you were created to be, not just for you, but for everything that we're all doing here together to operate and at its fullest capacity. So, Dave, brother, I appreciate you so much for fullest capacity. So, Dave, brother, I appreciate you so much for taking the time out here today. Guys, thank you again for tuning in to the I Am Rebuilt series. If you have
Let's go ahead and switch back to Frank. Slide this over just a hair.
Build series. If you have questions, you know where to find us. Reach out if you're interested. You can email me directly. You can contact me on Instagram. But we are looking to change more men's lives. So it's open enrollment. But brother Dave, thank you so much, guys.
Now I already trimmed that off a little bit because there's a little bit of crosstalk there.
So it's open enrollment. But brother Dave, thank you so much, guys.
And I'm just going to have to cut it there because it's not great.
But brother Dave, thank you so much. Change more men's lives. So it's open enrollment. But brother, on Instagram, but we are looking to change more men's lives. So change more men's lives.
Actually, that's a much better spot. Let's go do that, and then I'm gonna do this so that I can fade out the audio there on that.
We are looking to change more men's lives.
Sounds reasonably natural there. There we go. Cool. Yeah, that looks and sounds fairly decent. Let me fix my overlay here since we cut off a good amount of this content. We don't need to have it out that long. Extra 30 seconds or so there. Let's just sit there. Let me make that sweet spot a little larger on this. Okay.
Change more men's lives.
And then didn't do it the previous time. I'm going to grab the music track and we'll paste it in again so that we can have a little something there.
We are looking to change more men's lives. Men's lives.
Drag this one out a little. There we go. Okay, and that is that. We can send this to compressor and export the file. So yeah, I did a lot of this setup yesterday, kind of while doing other things. There's a lot of things you can do when you're talking on the phone, and so I was able to set up a lot of the shots and the clips and everything as I was doing that, and that's great. Okay, let's choose the right folder here. Super. There we go. Rebuilt. Nope, I'm going to drop that in finished. Cool. Okay, so that's that. That's going to take. It shouldn't take too terribly long. The resolution on this project is no, actually it's 1080. Probably should have set it to 720 because the video content is just not great, but it is what it is. The rest of the graphics look great. I made those, most of them. Anyway, including the spinny thing. The spinny thing was fun to make. That would say. That actually took me quite a while to figure out how to do because I have not used Motion enough for that. So that was a fun project. Okay, I'm going to let this transcode. I'm going to run to the restroom real quick, and we'll be right back. tried to update some settings on my camera, and of course now it's being finicky. 1 second here. There we go. That's better. Okay, the edit or the export is done, which is great. Yes, I did change shirts because you don't want to like not wear your brand new Star Wars shirt. This is going to be absolutely one of those memes where tell me that you're a Star Wars geek without saying a word or whatever that meme is. Yeah, that's me. My Mando speeder and everything else. So yeah. Yeah. Anyway, if you are new to the stream, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. I'm hanging out doing some editing, and we are getting ready to move into the second project for the day. Let's go ahead and save these changes. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's go ahead and get into the next one. The next one is a little bit longer of a project, a little more intense, and all of that. I'm going to pull this over here too. This one it's longer for one, and then two, it's actually recorded separate tracks and everything else like that. I've actually not done any building on it quite yet. So let's see what we actually have going on. I think in this case, yeah, let me start with the audio. I'll get the videos pulled in, but we'll start with the audio. So, all right, Tipster 103. Just copying that into a different folder so that it doesn't get ginormous for my host. Okay. It's gonna take a minute. Probably has to actually download a lot of this. My download speed's maxing out right now at 430 megabits per second. Let's go ahead and let that continue to run though. Hopefully I'm not buffering too much for you guys. I am getting an error or a message from the YouTube monitoring stuff saying that it's doing so, but I don't see it on my side. That doesn't mean it isn't happening. Probably a mixture of upload and download stuff going on. Yeah, this is uploading the video that we just finished to Google Drive. So yeah, my bandwidth is completely being used up right now. But anyway, welcome to the stream. So again, while I'm waiting on this, the goal of these sessions, let me switch over. The goal of these sessions really is to give me the opportunity to focus on just the task for the moment. So things like the editing and whatnot, and it helps me to talk about it while I'm doing it. That takes up the second half of my brain while I'm working on things because I'm really easily distracted. The other thing that it does, it gives me the ability to share some of the things I've learned over the last few years to be able to help others who might not have had the experience that I've had the opportunity to have. Plain and simple, I've had a really phenomenal opportunity to get to learn all of this stuff over a few years now, and so I'm just trying to spread the love a little bit and give a little bit of my experience away while also helping myself maintain some modicum of productivity. So we have part 1 and part 2 here. Looks like it's Seth and Jaren again. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, they had. I think I remember him saying that they had some issues, but they addressed it. Okay, so I am going to pull so this can start moving over. I'm going to create my event for the episode. And then I'm going to pull in the videos so that those can transcode, do everything that they're needing to do. Okay, let's go in the settings here real quick. Normally I wouldn't adjust my bandwidth settings, but I'm going to limit to that should be 10 megabit per second. And let's see if it drops. No, because the upload on Google Drive is doing what it needs to do. Okay. And this actually probably just copied them over, knowing that they're all still on they're all in Dropbox. I went from one Dropbox folder to another. Okay, cool. So those are in there. I'm gonna go ahead, because these are larger files. I want to go ahead and transcode them. Let me see how much free space I have on that drive. Make sure that I'm not gonna run myself out of space. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and transcode. I'm not going to create proxy, just the optimized. That way, while I'm editing, it doesn't have to think that much, which will be great. Okay, that's going to run for a bit and do its thing. Now we can focus on the audio. This is where tools like RX8 in this particular instance comes in really, really handy. Let me go ahead and pull these in. I can also bring in archive. Over here, because that's just for reference. Perfect. Okay. Part 1, Part 2 combo are there. So we are going to dig into the audio repair, and luckily in this case, actually we can see it right now with Jaren's feed. There's really not a lot to repair. If we're looking at this now, if you don't know what this is, I probably am not going to take a ton of time to explain it, but what we're seeing in this section is that there's a little bit of a low end hiss or like fan noise down here. This is probably AC running in the background, but it's not actually the hum of the compressor. It's just the air. So if we listen back to just this Yes. Okay. There we go. Make sure this is working too. Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what's going on there. I think whenever I switched audio inside of RX, it messed things up. So what I'm showing right now is just the hiss. All we're seeing, and what we're seeing on the screen, is a visual representation of this. But this is like AC fan noise or ceiling fan noise. That's all we're seeing here. And it doesn't even register here in OBS the meter here. Like I've got it up all the way, and it's just not showing up. Whereas if we play something here, like his welcome here, his little laugh. Oh no, that's not showing up either. Okay, let me make sure that system is working properly. Okay, multi-output. Yeah, it's going. It should be doing it. Okay. Let me switch in here. Okay, let's see. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, it crashed my whole audio system, whole audio aspect of my system here. Let me turn up my mic volume again. There we go. Okay, that's turned it down earlier. I was getting too much fan noise while I was doing other things. Let's see if we have audio playback for the system. Maybe.
I think
Actually we are. Okay, so again, now that I know that I have some audio in for you guys to hear, let's play this back. This is just fan noise from the room. Have to listen pretty carefully to hear it. And it's not distracting, actually, from what Jaren is doing here.
I think the best place for...
So I'm going to go ahead and use this as a great sample of of what the room noise looks like, and I'm going to pull that out of everything. So I'm going to do spectral denoise. I'm going to learn what that sample shows us, and in this case, I learned about this not too long ago. There's not a lot of tonal things, meaning there's not a lot of like vertical or horizontal lines going on here. It's mostly noise. So it's white noise, fan, and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and strip this sample, or based off of this sample, from everything else, just to give it a little bit more clarity. RX8 is a mastering software that gives the ability to really filter out and do some really intense ability to pull out or to clean up audio, and it's used by voiceover artists and editors quite a lot for that very purpose. So it's a really, really phenomenal tool. And in relatively short periods of time, it can actually make the final product that you're wanting to put out into the world really very easy to manage. So that's really great. Let me send an email to or a text real quick to my client that we just finished the video for. Just let him know that that's done and uploaded fully. It looks like it's got done uploading. Okay. This is almost done processing here. I'll be going till about 1 o'clock Central today with this. That's my plan. I have a beer trim scheduled for 2, so I wanted to make sure I had a little time to process things a little bit and all of that. Okay. Yeah, good stuff. Okay. The processing is done almost. Cool. Okay. So that's cleaned up. And now visually we can actually see that there's no longer this visual white noise down here at the bottom, at least nothing major. And I'm actually not going to over clean that because it can become problematic and actually degrade the rest of the audio if you do it too much. Let me go ahead and play it back a little.
I think the best place for us to begin.
The other thing that I'm immediately noticing is that Jaren's S's right now,
where you
very,
offset
very
your monthly housing costs, whether that's rent or a mortgage.
Offset. So I'm gonna try. Just gonna do a small section here, see how it does.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. So house hacking, the way I define it, is it's a strategy where you offset your monthly housing costs, whether.
Okay, I'm gonna turn down the threshold.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. So house hacking, the way I define it, is it's a strategy where you offset your monthly housing costs, whether that's rent or a mortgage or what have you, by income generated from.
Breathe that one more time. This is more nuanced than a lot of the other filters that I have here that I can run that clean up and fix audio, because it can really easily make you sound like you have a lisp if you take the S's, the sibilants, out completely. So I try not to do that. So let's preview this one more time.
So house hacking, the way I define it, is it's a strategy where you offset your monthly housing costs.
That's pretty acceptable to me. Like, there's still the S there, but it's not as sharp and cutting. I'm going to bring the threshold down just a little bit
Whether
more.
that's rent or a mortgage or what have you, by income generated from your primary residence. I think the most common.
I like that. Let me go ahead and start at the beginning of this section again, though.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. So house hacking, the way I define it, is it's a strategy where you offset your monthly housing costs, whether that's rent or a mortgage or what have you, by income generated from your primary residence. I think the most common means of house hacking is by.
That's perfectly acceptable to me. I like that a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that to this whole thing. I'm also going to save this as a preset because I've got two files from Jaren from the same day. So I'm going to make sure that I can apply this to the other one. In fact, I'm probably going to go straight over there and do it immediately after doing the spectral noise. So we'll kind of take these step by step, doing the same things, bouncing back and forth. I oftentimes will run this through a batch process, but this podcast needs a little bit more, which is totally fine. There's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with that. So I'm gonna take a little extra time with the audio, making sure that we do the absolute best that we can with this. So once again, if I zoom in on one of these gaps in the conversation, we can see that there's a little bit of white noise. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to do spectral denoise. I'm going to learn, get that same profile or a similar, very similar profile, and I'm going to render. And that's going to remove all the white noise from this, and then we will do the DS process again. There's a lot of waiting with this, which is partly why I want to be able to do these streams and talk and things like that, because the truth is that it's boring otherwise. Oh, you can't see my screen. You oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Here you go. That helps a lot to be able to see my screen. Okay. Here we are. So we are processing, removing the white noise from the feed here. Tony, why didn't you tell me? If there's anybody else on the stream that's actively watching, please say hi. I'd love to see who you are and all that type of stuff. Just really and appreciate you stopping by, hanging out with me. And then we'll do what we can here. It's just, a good time for us to hang out and work. Sad face Tony. Oh my. Yeah, Tony, I know it's hard right now, but you got to make it down to Austin, and we've got to get barbecue, and I'll show you my setup. Hopefully my office will be a little cleaner than it is right now. You'll notice that my camera rig is very strategically placed to be exactly in the place that I want and need it to be, so that it actually looks okay. I'm actually going to change my coloration. I just don't like this at all. Let me... that's still really horrible. That's actually a whole lot better. My desk lamp is a smart bulb that I can adjust, and so right now I've actually got it set to yellow, which is really kind of weird, but that's actually what's giving me a not blue skin tone, which works. Okay, so we have stripped the white noise away from this, and it sounds pretty much crystal clear. That's what we want.
Well, not.
Okay, and so like little notes like this, that's a breath. I could kind of tell that it was either mouth click or breath. Let me zoom in way on it. But yeah, that's like Jaren taking a quick breath. I can actually do a spectral noise removal for that as well. Learn that one here real quick. And because it goes the whole spectrum, I'm doing the whole spectrum. If I wanted to, I could just do one section of it, but I'm going to go ahead and do all of it. So spectral denoise, learn. And then let's apply that to the whole thing as well, just to see if it cuts into it. No, I'm not. I'm not using anything name brand. I'm using some kind of off Amazon cheapy smart bulbs, and they're all around me. I have three here. I've got one in that bulb over there, which is kind of this glow light thing. I'm not going to show you because it's a mess in that corner. And then I've actually put a smart dimmer for the room lights on either side of the room, so that I can control that with my phone. But I'm using two different apps, and then I can control it through my Google Home that I have over here. A little Google, one of those little speakers that I don't use as a speaker at all. I mainly just use it to play Star Trek because I'm that massive of a geek, because that's what I am. Really, seriously, I do need to do a one of those memes of tell me but I'm not a TikTok star, so yeah. Um, yeah, these cheapy bulbs. I think I've every pack that I've got has been like a 2 pack, and it's been like $25-$30, something like that. So it's been really really easy to actually manage and afford to add to the lot. I actually have two. I call them up lights, but they're little can lights that you would put in a bookshelf normally on the other side of everything. They don't do much. They actually do add to the room a little bit when that's all that's on, but it's not. They're more there out of form than function. Okay, cool. So let's see how that did. We can see a little bit of that left.
Well, not me, because like I really understand the the power and benefit of staying in your lane. And
It's a little wonky, a little weird. I don't know if that's from what we just did. Luckily, I can come back in here. And get out of that tool.
understand the power and benefit of staying in your lane and doubling down on your strengths. And I'm not a mechanical oriented person.
Okay, so I'm not going to try to take out the breath there yet. I will let the debreathe thing do its thing. I've got a module that I'll be running here in a minute, but I want to do the DS thing. And this is still set the same as it was for the other. I'm going to preview, make sure that it's not different enough in this time to cause an issue.
Down on your strengths. And I'm not a mechanical oriented person at all. And I've tested it out. I really have. Like when
The S's sound like S's. They don't sound like they're muted or anything else like that, but they aren't piercing either. And that's all you want to do with the DS. And that's hard for me to hear, actually, because I have so much ringing in my ears. That's why I use in-ears. I've got a good... I went ahead and I invested in a high-quality set of over-the-ear cans to give myself something that, that's studio quality. Most of my stuff is consumer quality. Okay, DS is almost done. There we are. Let's go ahead and play it back. Make sure that it still sounds
and
good.
doubling down on your strengths. And I'm not a mechanical oriented person at all. And I've tested it.
Okay, perfect. So, in this case, I'm just going to mute that breath because I saw it there. And that's what I'll probably do on some of those other errant little sounds. Let's see what's in this. Yeah, a little breathing something. Who knows? Okay, no big deal. Easy to deal with. Okay, so let's run our module set here. Actually, no. Before I do, I'm going to try to de-reverb.
Where you offset your monthly housing costs, whether that's rent or...
It's very subtle in this case, so I don't think we need to do a ton of it, but I'm going to do a dialogue de-reverb. I'm just going to take the edge off of it. I don't want to change what's going on too terribly much. This is a mono channel. So this is channel independent. Let's preview.
That income to offset your mortgage cost. Why I think the most common strategy is a 2 to 4 unit where you live in one. And
okay, I'm gonna go ahead and render that. Tony, you'll get a kick out of this. Part of the reason why I got these smart bulbs is because I am spending long hours in my office, and usually I'm late at night and things like that. I originally intended, didn't actually act on it very much, but I originally intended to make sure that I was switching to red towards the end of the evening, so that I was in my environment decreasing the amount of blue light that I was ingesting through my screens, or my environment, so that I could go to bed at 10:30 whenever I get off of work a little more easily. It's still hard, but it and that has helped a little, but it's not been really too crazy. Now, something that actually, let me do this. Let me set this up while we're waiting. I might as well do this. Let's go home. I want to create a Discord server. Create my own local community study group. Kind of like a study group, right? Okay. Let's just say, let's say Clever Community. There we go. Yeah, let's go ahead and add my DPS logo here. Part of why I'd want to do this is that there is a voice chat option with Discord, so that if there are people that want to jump in and talk while we're working here, we could. So let me go ahead and get in here. I'm gonna get my graphics up for my company here. Awesome. That was easy. And because this will be pretty direct, let me go ahead and do this. I'm going to create no limit. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in here. If you want to join me, feel free to jump on there, and I'll open up the voice channel. We can use that. Let me paste this into my Facebook posts here real quick from earlier. Jump over here in voice chat there. Let me check my settings there. I might mute my vocal inside the Discord. Voice and video. the volume. There we go. There we go. Okay. And let me throw that on my Instagram too. We're still waiting on that process to run. And these things can be rather heavy duty on the system, so lots of things to run and do what they're needing to do. Let me switch accounts to this one. Having 3 screens is such a blessing. Still processing. Minute 30 left there. Let me add this link here to the screen. I'll add it to the text here. Change the color to red. All of that. Oh, it's a gradient. I'm gonna choose red for both. Outline. Oh, no, I'm gonna go back to white if I can outline it. Okay. Okay. Let's resize that a bit. I'm just going to hide the welcome thing. That's okay. So it's all fitting there. It's just a little tight. There we go. That should work. Okay. So our process is done. Let's hear how it sounds.
I think the best place for us to begin, Seth, is kind of giving the backstory. Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. So, house hacking, the way I define it is it's a strategy where you offset your monthly housing costs, whether
Okay. I'm not worried. Like, I'm not hearing a significant difference here, but what I am hearing, it sounds good. So I'm gonna leave it as is. There's always going to be a little bit of room noise with Jaren's feed. It just kind of is that way. But let me move this over. Can't find the sweet spot. There we go. That's better. Okay, so yeah, it doesn't sound horrible. I'm gonna go ahead and run it again. Or I'm gonna run it on the second clip as well. Go ahead and do that. Processing, chunking away on it. There we go. Welcome, Tony. I do see that you're joined. If you want to join the voice chat, you can just join the voice channel down below. Ah, yep, absolutely. Still processing there. I normally can process multiple things at once. I'm intentionally kind of letting it focus on one, although the video is done transcoding, which is good. 96 gigs. Wow. 76 is transcode files. I'm going to clear the cache from the previous project, though. Render files are unnecessary. Once I have the audio cleaned up, I have everything filtered and it sounds good, then we will match that up with our video inside of Final Cut, and we will then allow it to do its thing. In fact, let's go ahead and start working on Seth's audio now. His volume is quite a bit softer. Wonder if I want to run something like Vocal Writer or Compressor on this ahead of time. Let's do loudness control. That's a good one generally. Let's see where we stand right now. This application has a bajillion things. Welcome to the stream. I see that somebody's popping in and out. I'm not sure if it's a lot of people or one person, but welcome. We are currently doing the cleanup process on the audio for a video podcast that we're doing. Hopefully you'll find this fun. If you want to join the Discord server, and you can actually join the voice channel, and we can talk a little bit while we're working. Okay, so yeah, the integrated audio, like what the overall level on this thing is really, really low, negative 31. There's some short-term spikes at 28, but that's still really low. So I'm going to go ahead and render this with the loudness control, see if I can't get it up to what I found to be pretty average. I'll run the same loudness control on everything that Jaren is running eventually. And I should probably bring Jaren's channels down a little bit. Hopefully this will take as long as it's saying that it is. It seems to be clipping at a pretty good pace. A little bit about my setup for those who might be interested. I am running a 2019 MacBook Pro, spec'd out as high as I could at that point in time, and yet still pick up the next day at the Apple Store. So that means I couldn't get the 32 gig model of RAM, but I have 16 gigs of RAM, the highest processor offered, the highest video card offered at the time, and it runs wonderfully. 16 total cores. It's an 8 dual core processor, and then has a decent decent video card on it. Radeon Pro 5500M, 4 gigs of onboard RAM. Not stellar, but it's a laptop, so what can you expect? I've got a 1 terabyte hard drive inside. It's almost completely full right now. I need to do some cleanup on that, but most of what we're doing here actually resides on an external 1 terabyte solid state drive, so I still get about 250 megabytes per second read-write speed on that, which is great. I am running triple monitor setup basically. I've got my main display from the MacBook Pro as well as 2 external displays. You are seeing 2 of those. The other one I'm monitoring the feed as well as being able to check Facebook and things like that, post and have messages and things that are off screen. My desk is a standing desk. Thank you to my primary employer who sees this type of I'm hearing somebody in Discord there. Hey Tony, welcome. A pair of earbuds. Yeah. You've got questions. Okay. We'll get into those here in just a second, Tony. Yeah, there you are. I'm not sure if you're coming through to the feed or not. Let's see. Go ahead and talk for a second. I don't think you are. Yeah, there you go. Now I got you. I think you've got it. Do you have it on touch to speak? Yeah, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. Yeah. I mean, so if you hit the space bar, it mutes your mic. That they seem to be working okay for me. Yeah, I got you. I can hear you. I can hear you. I'm hearing you. Yeah, I'm hearing you. It's it's okay. Let me make sure that I'm now. Now, are you okay? So I'm gonna turn on push to speak because otherwise it's gonna be very cyclical. Let me do that. I can still, yeah, I can. Yeah, I'm hearing you. I'm still hearing you, Tony. I'm still hearing you, Tony. I've got myself set to automatically mute unless I hit my space bar inside of Descript because otherwise I'm like going in 3 places at once potentially. So okay, I can hear you, and you should hopefully be able to hear me now. Yep, yep. That seems to be the key. No, I don't want that as my output device. I want that as my output device. Okay. Yeah, that definitely seems to be the case. Yeah. I am using Descript as well in some cases. So when we get to the edit phase for just the audio, what I like to do is get the transcript and cut out chunks of audio and video that way. So that's a really great tool as well. Yeah, it's a really great application, to be able to clean up ums and ahs and pauses and awkwardnesses and all that type of stuff. Okay, I don't think I'm gonna like how this sounds. Let's see how it. Yep, nope, don't like it. That's why we have that undo. Um, so let me RX8. 8. I'm just gonna gain this up. Let's talk for a second, Tony. I want to make sure that your voice is hitting the stream. Okay, no, it's not. Yeah, it's okay. It's not a big deal. Not too terribly worried about it. Yeah, yeah, and sometimes it's a yep or a uh-huh or a or that type of thing. But in this case, it's actually headphone bleed. I noticed this last time I was editing for them. You can hear, very very softly. That sounds like Jaron to me. And so we're in Seth's feed right now, and so his microphone is sensitive enough; it's actually picking up over bleed out of the headphones, every now and again. And so, like, if I was to gain that up a lot, let me gain that up even further, we'd hear it even clearer. And so I'm probably, in this, I will, actually, I need to regain that up. Let's get everything back up. But what I will probably end up doing, which is what I did last time, I'm just going to go in and, like, carte blanche, go in and, like, check each one of these and then silence them, kind of like that. So it will, yeah, that way I can just not even have to worry about it. The inside of RX, the shortcut for that is Shift S. So that allows for really easy to just highlight a region and do all of that. Let's see how we sound now that we've gained this up. It should. Okay, so it's pretty clean. Still hearing a little bit of reverb. He's always hypersensitive about it. You can actually see him on the second display. He has treated that wall. That is all sound dampening material, sound dampening panels, and things like that. He's very sensitive to those things and has tried to keep that. So I'm going to go ahead and do the dialogue de-reverb again. Let me preview it here. Sounds pretty good, to my ears at least. Let's go ahead and render it across the thing. Okay. While we're doing that, we can go back to Jaron's. That finished running what it was doing, which was the dialogue de-reverb.
I'm able to screen tenants, process applications, look at background checks.
It sounds pretty good. And the other thing that I'm noticing on these is while it's not exactly uniform as far as volume goes, there's not a lot of, like, spiking or anything. So I'm not too terribly worried about trying to make it, compressing it to level yet. That's something that we can do at a later point in the process. Okay. We'll let that run on Seth's. Make sure that it works on the first one before we try to do it on the second one. Okay, let me get into my module chain. This is where I'm going to let it do a lot of stuff automatically. And I've got a preset specifically for RX8. I'm going to turn off normalize. I'm going to make sure that I leave declip on just in case there's any clipping, but I highly doubt that there will be. We don't need to do spectral denoise. We already did that. I'm going to leave vocal or voice denoise on. This will get rid of most of the additional non-vocal noise that's happening in while someone's speaking. Is what this one does. So it's going into the dialogue and it's being pretty gentle. I've got this set pretty, actually pretty aggressive, but it does what I need it to. Breath control. This will kind of take care of a lot of the breaths and make sure that we're not hearing those. Just for kicks and grins, let me run deep breath on a section, and I'll actually have it output only the breaths. So let's.
That's a good place to start.
So many breaths. So let's go ahead and yeah, I'll leave it as, and that was at maximum. I don't have this at maximum. I have this a little under that.
It's just so awesome watching it just blaze through there.
Oh, it's such a great tool, and that wasn't final rendering, but that was enough to preview, make sure that it's not going to do anything. This mouth declick is awesome. All of the things that we do with our voice, with our mouths, and don't even realize it, those get captured on these highly sensitive microphones, and they're so easy to do. Deplosive, of course. Of course, I've got a windscreen on my mic, which helps a little bit with some of that, but it still can pick up some of that. So this is actually more important with Jaron. You can't even see Seth's mic on his camera feed. His microphone, I believe, is over to his left, just off camera, actually. So he's not going to have too many in the plosives area. We've actually already done DS, so I'm not going to run it again. I don't want to soften those S's any further. And I have not been impressed with Leveler, so I'm just going to level the audio of this later. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let it render and do all of those tasks. Do that here as well. And there we go. It's running. It's doing its thing.
I understand you said you were, before we were messing with the audio, you're using an Intel-based Mac?
Yes, it's still an Intel-based Mac. I have not yet had the chance to put my hands on an Apple Silicon Mac, and that's largely because of the form factor. We don't have a 16-inch yet, and with me doing the type of editing I'm doing and things like that, I don't want to be squinting to see on a 13-inch screen.
We just went back to Mac. I ordered a M1 Mac Mini, maxed out, and it's still sitting in the box. We got it 3 weeks ago, and with everything going on, we just haven't gotten to it yet. But I am excited to open it up and start running it and see what it can do, because it is magical sounding.
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to have to come back to that. That looks like a cool idea. Discord is such a cool thing, and it's so easy to be able to create these things. I'm going to change my settings again. I tried to put the audio output from this out to the stream, and it's not working. So I'm going to switch it back to my main output. There we go. Hopefully you won't get distorted for me anymore. It was getting distorted. Okay. Probably way too complicated is the answer. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. This is as streamlined as I can get it. I'm using OBS to capture the different displays or the different windows that I wanted to capture with this. but it's as streamlined, as straightforward as I can. I am using a secondary application or plugin to give me the ability to loop my audio back into the system. It's called Black Hole. And so I'm at like my system output, what's coming from RX, what's coming from Final Cut, and everything else like that is going into a multi-output device that I've created here, and that sends equally to Black Hole Stereo, 16 channel, and USB audio codec, which is my main interface, which I've got my headphones hooked into and everything else like that. So it's kind of broadcasting the system sound to that. And then Black Hole allows us to kind of loop that back in and capture that. And so that's what the system audio is actually pulling from for OBS. Okay, so let's see here. Seth's is done with the Dialogue D reverb. Let's hear how it sounds. Okay, play for me. There we go. Come on. Nope, it's going to be obstinate. Probably because I touched the audio settings. Let's let this finish processing. I may have to restart RX again. That's what borked my audio earlier. Your mom's doing good? Good. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very cool. Very, very cool. I'm glad that she's getting to see and getting back up and running. But yeah, that's a big change whenever you were trying to set up one thing and you have to kind of course correct or change the direction. Uh, mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's all you can do. Okay, so we have Jaren's processed out here, which is good. So let's go ahead and see if I can reset the audio here. Okay.
It's a strategy.
Okay, good. And my mic seems to still be working. So let's make sure that it's getting to the. Yep, it's going to the stream. Okay, cool. So we're good all the way around. So let's listen to Seth again. We did the de-reverb on him. Let's make sure that it didn't downgrade his quality there. Okay, sounds pretty good. I don't hear anything that's like super obvious as being bad. I'm gonna go ahead and run the the Dialogue D reverb on the same setting on his other thing. Normally this would be one file, but they had technical issues about midway through, and so they kind of picked up where they left off and all of that. Okay, let me go back to Jaren's. This is what I normally do. I bounce back and forth between files and just kind of clean them up as they process. Luckily, the computer's plenty powerful enough to do all of that. You can just barely see. I've got a little monitor here that allows me to see the performance. My upload speed is ticking away at two megabit per second, probably from the stream. That's probably what this is. So that's cool to get to see that. Okay, let's check Jaren's audio here. We'll go with that same clip. I kind of, for comparison's sake, I like to listen to the same thing over and over.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. So, house hacking, the way I define it is it's a strategy where you offset your monthly housing costs, whether that's rent or a mortgage or what have you, by
Sounds pretty good to me.
in New York or somewhere that was much harder to afford. You have to run the numbers and have it.
Okay. That sounds pretty good to me for Jaren. I don't want to degrade the audio any further, so I'm gonna go ahead and save it as is there. This is in my working folder, which is good. RX. And then we are going to call this Jaren Part 2. And we'll do the same thing with the first one. That is kind of one of the things I've been seeing or doing lately is I've been noticing that I've probably been over processing some of these files, which is kind of one of those things that happens, and you just course correct to pull back a little bit because you can get so actually I'll give a real world example here. So if I look at the same podcast that I'm working on right now, but the previous episode, if I go to this to 102, this is the original audio that I have for Seth.
Cool. All right, so I will and I think this was Lisa's example here, and
it's not perfect, but it's really clear. It there's not.
All right, so I
find a section that he's actually talking. Jaren
list and point out some things to think about in case it hasn't already occurred to you.
So he's really full quality, all that type of stuff. This is what I ended up sending him to review to make sure that there wasn't any, or to review the conversation.
Hey, tipsters, how's it going? This is Seth and Jaren. Welcome to the RE Tipster Podcast.
Overprocessed City. It was amplified poorly. It was on the edge of distortion. It sounds flat and not full. If I go back and forth.
Cool. All right, so I will get going here in 3, 2. Hey, tipsters, how's it
going? You can't. Yeah, that can happen, and that happened with this one. And unfortunately, there was not enough time to fix it because I would have actually had to go back to the start to what I'm doing right now, to redo it. And yeah, so I'm kid gloving this episode, the episode 103, every step of the way for these guys because I want to make sure that I don't have the same problem happen again. I think some of the issue is that it is such a good, clean audio capture from the original recording that it's trying, these processes are trying to find flaws in it and they aren't there, and so it ends up amplifying or making things worse because it cuts into the quality of the actual content. Now, one thing I didn't do on this second one I did on the other one was I didn't gain this up. Shouldn't be a big deal. I should be able to do that right now. There we go. Made it a little more louder, a little more uniform. So all we've done so far on this, on Seth's so far, is gain and dialogue de-reverb. That's all we've done so far. I do want to try to do a DS because I'm hearing some S's in here that are a little annoying. So let's go ahead and do that. There is a preferred order on some of this stuff. I don't follow it very much. I just kind of. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, it would. It would make it so that you would kind of catch it as it's coming in instead of having to do it in post. So yeah, that's definitely something that's great. That Rodecaster is phenomenal. I really I would love to have one. I don't have much of a need for one because I do have as good of a setup as I do, so I don't want to invest that. But if I was setting up a studio, say I was actually setting up a studio space to actually record for multiple people in the same room, I would get a Rodecaster Pro in about 30 seconds because it would totally worth every penny. Um, okay. Yep. Yep. Apps. So I'm no longer hearing that brittleness at the top of the S's here. So I'm going to go ahead and render that out. And we'll apply the same settings to the other one. Bounce back to this one. Okay. And then, let's see. We don't have a lot of extra noise, but there are pops and clicks and ahs and yas and all that type of stuff that we're dealing with here. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm probably going to take the time because it really just doesn't take that long to check these little bubbles. Anything that's, this size or larger, I want to check them just to make sure that they aren't something intentionally. But if they aren't, they get wiped. And then yeah, it's uh-oh. Well, if you yeah, yeah. Uh-oh. Okay. Good. Yeah, at least yeah, you've got a spare set. You just don't have you've got a spare set. You just don't have the actual yeah, the means to get there. Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. Of course. Of course. Um they she has a traumatic brain injury though. So is it really, yeah. Yeah, yeah, she's done good. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. A Jeep is really easy to quote unquote break into and get your items back. You just unsnap the window and you're in, pretty much. Yeah, that's funny. Um, let's see here. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna go through and filter out all the cracks and pops manually. So that's actually yeah, but it doesn't sound like one. And so I'm going to get rid of it because, well, I don't like the yas. Anything that's just like really small like this, I'm just going to assume that it's not necessary. It's not a real word. Whereas this, that's a yep. Or yeah. Okay. And yes, you do get to the point when you do this enough that you can actually recognize the shape of a waveform, to where you can actually know what it is. I will end up probably editing around this in the end, but I'm going to leave it in there for now because you never know what they're doing like on screen, and if he's actually on screen at that moment and he's saying, yeah, and you can see it, but you don't hear it. It's a little weird. So I'll leave it there for now. Now that's bleed. That's it. His mouth doesn't move. It gets removed. That's a sure. Again, real words. I'll leave it in there for now. Now, I don't like what I'm hearing there. It does sound a little garbled there. Let me go back to the initial state real quick. No, the original's bad. So I didn't create that issue. So I'll go back. Now, part of what may be going on, I don't see that Seth is actually wearing headphones. I think there's some sound cancellation when they're over speaking. He usually uses headphones, I thought. Could be wrong. You can hear how he clears up as Jaren finishes speaking, and he... Yeah, and then you can actually kind of tell that Jaren is getting in there again. Okay, well, I'll have to get that feedback. He needs to use headphones. Podcasters, use headphones. Sorry, that's a diatribe that I will die on. If you're a guest, it works just fine. If you're going to be doing it regularly, wired is much, much better. And largely for the reasoning of that you won't get the Bluetooth delay added to everything else that you're seeing or doing. So when you're doing a remote podcast, as you know, there's that internet lag. And so you've got, I finish a statement, it has to arrive to you, and then you start to reply. Well, if you have a Bluetooth headset, while it's milliseconds, you still add milliseconds of delay between the computer and the headphones, whereas it's instantaneous. As it comes into the computer, it comes out the headphones when they're wired. So I prefer wired, but Bluetooth is passable, especially for guests. But if you're going to be hosting, much better to be wired. That's bleed over. That's definitely bleed over. These like diagonal lines that's like falling off of a word type things, that's how I'm interpreting it, at least. There's actually a course on RX8 or RX7 and 8 by Don and Donnie Barnes. That's like 7 or 8 hours worth of content. I'm only about 1/3 of the way through it. It's expensive. I spent a good chunk on it, but it's so good. Just really gives that in-depth view of all of these features, and I hit the tip of the iceberg with them. Okay, so that's still bleed over. Okay, that's a yeah, so we'll leave that one for now. This looks like real words, but it's bleed over. That's why there's bleed over, is that's where the sound cancellation that's being done by Riverside isn't actually happening, or happening properly. And so, yeah, okay. Well, if he complains about these sections, I'll be mindful of it. I'll probably timestamp them even. I will be able to give a citation for what is going on. Almost every beginning of his phrase. Let's see if. Okay, so luckily Jaren didn't start speaking until after he had been done saying something. Okay, I'm going to remove this one, but I'm going to leave the up. Chances are that he won't even be on screen for most of these, so I'll be able to mute them after the fact. I hope you're finding this interesting. I do enjoy it. I really do get a lot of satisfaction after cleaning this stuff up. Mm-hmm. Yep. That there's a lot of truth in that. The other side of that that I've seen from a couple different clients is I don't think they realize how much work actually goes into one of these edits and what all it entails. And so when they talk about, I quote my price, and they balk at the number of hours that I'm going to be spending on the project or that type of thing. They don't know what went into it. They don't understand what's going into it from the start. So they end up believing, oh, well, this has to be simpler than that. I'll just use Zoom. I'll take the file from Zoom and I'll just upload that. And I cannot stand it. I just cannot stand it. It's just, there are several. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll see this whenever you saw it earlier whenever I was working on the Zoom call that I did, the Zoom call edit that I did earlier. Uh, the I didn't take the side by side shot that Zoom provided. I actually took my two standalone shots that I'd created and I made my own combo side by side that has a little border on it and all that type of stuff because I didn't want it to. They had a whole bunch of space on either side of them. Frank's camera is an ultra wide, kind of like the camera that I'm using here, but it's an ultra wide camera to where it's like way zoomed out, and so I have to flatten that image out for him and all that type of stuff. But once it's done, it's so much better. It's still a Zoom call, but at least it sounds a little better because I process the audio a little, and it looks better than that. And I can, like you saw, I can remove an or an ah or long pause or awkward internet delay or those types of things. I can do some switching back and forth between cameras to hide some of that stuff on camera. Whereas if it's just one feed where both things, if I cut a section out, cut an out, it's going to be obvious because his hands are going to start here and they're going to suddenly be down here or whatever. And it becomes really obvious really quick if you don't have that ability to kind of change things up a little bit. And so I've been taking these stuff to the next level, and that's really a lot of what I want to do with all of this stuff, with the streaming, with the work that I'm doing. I want to move more and more away from doing these actual edits myself and move towards mixing, mastering, getting the final look and feel, and getting more clients. But at the same time, I'm not doing as much. So I actually have a good I have a good contractor that I've signed on. They use the same applications that I use. So technically speaking, if they really wanted to, they could send me the Final Cut file and I could actually just see the actual library itself that they were working in and be able to do that. That's really huge. So we're not probably going to do that much most of the time, but if we needed to, I could. And that way I could make, final edits and changes myself and all of that. And so as much as I can, I'm sending their way. Yes, it cuts into my profit, but this is my side gig anyway. So why not offload as much as I can to them, cut down on my profit, but then get more people and, get more projects on board. And as I get more projects on board, that will start making up for it. And it will, go back and forth and kind of grow both my business and this small business in the Philippines, which is phenomenal. I, mhm. No, that overlay I created is actually in Motion, which I hadn't done hardly anything in. Motion is one of those applications that I was like, oh my gosh, this is so like I initially had a hard time wrapping my head around. It is actually one of the applications that I support for Apple. And so it's kind of, I would beat myself up a little bit by not knowing the application a little better. So it is a 3D rendering application. It does video editing to a degree, but it's what you would normally use for like motion tracking, 3D editing, being able to do really advanced green screening or multi-layer video type stuff, things like that. What I've done with this, the spinning graphic thing, let me bring up my recent project here. Bumper spin. Yeah, we'll do that. What I've done with this, and it will actually just play back and loop. So you can see all of these different layers down here between lights and the camera view is what you're seeing here. And you've got the two different text elements that are coming in. They are casting a shadow on a static background. If I go from a top-down view, this is what it looks like. If I do and you can actually see where they're like rotating in either from above or from below. If we go from let me see the back. No. Back is not, it's not lit at all from the back, so that's probably why it's doing that. So you can kind of see from the side. We can zoom in a little bit on that, but and then this is kind of like behind the camera. This is what's happening from behind the camera, and then here's my active camera. So that's what it actually looks like, and so. Yeah, that's what this is doing, and the spin. Let me try to open up that other logo spin. that basically what I've done is I've taken that same graphic and I've given it a behavior to force it to spin, and I've told it the argument on this configuration on that is how do I get to it? Behavior, no. Inspector. So I've told it to spin rate 70 degrees per second or something. I don't know what this was. This just was what I needed to be able to get it to, in the process of start to finish, do a full rotation from one to the next. And so but yeah, it's just using a flat graphic. I would have liked to have given it some body, some 3D-ness to it, but honestly, in this case, the flat graphic actually worked better. But it's just kind of those things. But that's what this is. It really is. My Frank from that podcast, he actually had that designed. He went back and forth several times with his designer to get that design just so. And once it was the way that he liked it, that's how he kept it. But then he sent it to me, and I have all the components of those that I was able to kind of tear apart and put back together again in a different way. So, oh my. You will appreciate this. Our friend Berto here, giving a very clear answer to Jonathan Shane's post of all things keto running. Yep, that's how I feel about it. Oh gosh, yes. Yep. Yeah, that's it truly is yeah, the anger, the rage, all of that. Yeah, truly. Okay, let's get back into this. Otherwise, it will take all day. But yeah, that motion graphic was a fun learning experience for me. But it was absolutely that. It was, how do I do this? Okay, so we've got a little breath sound. I'm going to remove that, but I'm not going to remove this partial word because it's going to be visible. One of the very small changes that they made in RX-8 that I love is that you can actually do the trackpad 2-finger slide left and right to actually scroll left and right. In RX-7, with RX-7 standard specifically, you didn't have that ability, which was kind of stupid. Okay, so that's bleed over. That's an I'm going to leave it there for now, but eventually that's going to get cut off with a camera switch probably. Let's bleed over there. $30 more minutes and then I'll head out. I'm going to leave it for now. I'm pretty certain that that's going to be something that I cut out because it's a partial word. That's a mouth click at the beginning of that. In fact, actually, let me undo that. Let me show you that. Actually, it's not a mouth click. It's a bleed over. Okay. Well, hello, Miles. Ooh. Fat man. Are you wanting attention? Say hi to Tony. He's not going to say hi, but Yeah. How big is he? He's probably 20 pounds ish. Yeah. Yeah. We've got a teeny tiny little girl that that she's the bossy one of the two of them. Um, yeah. Yeah. They feels like every night. It's not every night, but almost every night he will go and like we go to bed. Like he's been quiet all day, like little meows like that, but nothing major. The lights go out, we go to bed, and meow, meow. Yeah, just oh Lord, yeah, he is not. And then his sister will be like, "Hey, quiet!" And then they start wrestling and fighting and trying to kill each other. Yeah, it's mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep, that will do it. That will do it. Get in front of that bleed. Mm-hmm. Oh, remove that one. Don't need that one. That one too. Think you saw probably. I went ahead and I re-released the your first two interviews. There was a lot of there was a lot of demand for those too. Like that was like when almost immediately when I said, "What was your favorite episode?" Tony. It's like, yep, absolutely. And it was. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it really does simplify a lot of that for the person that does get overwhelmed by the editing process. This form of editing I love, but if I'm removing ums and ands and ahs and things like that, I go to Descript in about 3 seconds. Um, mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's reasonably accurate. The thing that you'll find, let me actually bring up Descript to show. One of the things that you'll find is that whenever you're doing an edit like that, if it's a partial word, or let me see if I have an example of that. I don't think I do on this. Let me go to the full conversation, and then let's go to filler words, and let's do all the ums. There's plenty of those. Okay, if I say to remove all, what's going to end up happening on some of these, I know for me, it kind of cuts off this yeah at the wrong spot sometimes. So me got actually cut off a little bit there. And so you have to tweak those a little bit. Let me see if I can't see any of those others. So those platforms. The so I'm I back that off a little bit, and it allows me to find the sweet spot there. Luckily, in this case, it's a little easier to. But honestly, the true waveform. Yeah, actually, that's where it is. So you can see if you're being really, if you zoom in pretty tight, this, even though it's really, actually, let me zoom this up. Um, Make it a little taller. You can see it where it comes down. At its low point is usually when a new word's starting. So like you can see it's starting here. Um, so like with this one, this is a great example. Like if I tell it to remove this there, and I can just do it manually that way. This actually isn't the start of the wheres, at least not necessarily. Like it's hard to tell, and so you kind of sometimes have to tweak those things, make sure that they're that they that they're good cuts, but usually it's just a matter of going in and making a small adjustment, not having to do a full like reset or any of that type of stuff. This one was pretty clean. Oh, it totally is. There's a. I actually ordered it because this is fantastic. But the podcast editors group that I'm in, we have they have a little small like tea shop. The tea Tea Public, I think, is what it's called. And they have stickers and they have T-shirts and I got one of each, and it's the waveform for and it's just this because I can see one from a mile away usually if I'm looking right. And it's I can't find the email with it. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. There we are. There's the T-shirt. Yep. That's it. That's what looks like. So yeah, it's kind of one of those things. Being able to read and check these waveforms is really great. If I was doing an audio only version, I'm much more likely to go to that level to clean that type of thing up. But otherwise, I'm really not. Um, hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure, that's awesome. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. That's cool. Yeah, it it has a lot of capability. Like I think one of my clients is an author, and he's using a secondary service. He's using a field recorder to dictate his books that he's writing, and then he will from there send that to a service and have it be transcribed, and then he'll start the editing process. But he dictates his books initially. That's his. Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-mm. No. Yeah. Yep. They so AI is based off of the Google transcription service, and you can like purchase hours and hours and hours of their auto transcript type thing. But what you find on the back end of Descript is that's actually what they're doing too. They are purchasing, and that's why it's as expensive as it is for the amount of time that you're getting. Is you are purchasing from them their application, but also you're purchasing what they have to pay Google to have the Google servers do the transcription for you. So there's a lot that goes into that. A lot of it's API driven and things like that, but it's pretty cool stuff. Just knowing the backbone and that type of thing. I'll leave that in there. That looks like bleed, but I'll double check. Seth is a pretty chronic ummer and and agreeer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet. That's another podcast I'm privileged to have been on. I'm privileged to get to know Yoki. He's an amazing guy, but he at least for a long while he was using a trucker headset, which was doing noise cancellation out the crazy, which was making him sound horrible. And then he was recording them via Zoom, which sounded horrible by themselves. And then he not doing a ton of editing on them. Yeah, so it's just kind of one of those things that I don't know. I can't I can't listen to bad audio anymore. I just can't. I'm spoiled. Mm-hmm. The vi- the video can suck. The video can absolutely be crappy, but if it sounds bad, it gets turned off in 3 seconds. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The video quality can be stellar, and maybe that might win somebody. But and have the sound bad, and that might win somebody over. But most of the time, if the audio is bad, it doesn't matter how good the video is. I've had plenty of professional YouTubers put out, something, and the audio is just so ear grinding to me that I'm like, nope, can't do it. Sorry, I will. No. It can look like $1,000,000 if it does not sound decent. It doesn't have to sound great, just decent. It's not worth my effort, my time. In fact, actually, the quality itself can be the quality of the content can be absolute crap. If it sounds okay and it looks okay, I'm still going to watch it if it's entertaining. Not quite. Not quite. I should. But my YouTube subscriptions are filled with daily vloggers. Let me see. Recently, I've gotten into the NASA live stream stuff, which has been fun. Yeah, they're fantastic. Oh my gosh. And it's like one of those things that you're going, wow, like we have in the last, what is it, 5 years, something. Um, in the last 5 years since SpaceX has really gotten into the game, we've gone from having to use fossil fuels to get into space to being able to use liquid oxygen, which we can create from water, that gets them into space. Oh, wait, we are able to recover 99% of the machine that's getting us into space and reuse those parts for the next flight. And oh, yeah, it lands it freaking self. I'm like, watching the most recent launch of this new crew, the SpaceX Crew 2, going into space, and knowing that they're sitting there in their chairs, they're looking at some really big iPad screens in front of them, but they're not touching it. The computer is doing 99.999% of things for them, to where all they are doing is giving it a go, no go. That's all they're doing. Just absolutely fantastic. Insane. And it tells me that, at least at this point, we no longer have to have true rocket scientists in those seats. We can send biologists and all these different types of scientists into space to do whatever the type of science is that they would want to do without any issue, because they don't have to actually go through 10 years of, okay, this is what's going to happen if the spaceship breaks, and this is how you're going to fix it. Just, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And if we can get the heavy up there doing some runs with with more and more people, get more and more people into space, the idea of being able to colonize the moon is actually something that we could potentially do. And again, we're talking about their propulsion. That's the thing that I think I like and appreciate the most, is the propulsion that they're using is liquid oxygen. So it's something that we can pull out of the air. We can actually create it from water. It's not a completely finite thing that we only have a limited amount of to get into. It's just liquid oxygen. That's it. That's what they're using to get enough lift to get into space, which is phenomenal by itself. It's just everything about it. I'm just like, okay, wow, this is amazing. We are now truly in a Star Trek, Star Wars world at this point. We really are. Um, okay. Well, got about 10 more minutes here that I can spend on this. Let's try to get the last of this first half done. Okay, those just sound like noises. Um, Took me a little while to get used to the overlay of the spectral view and the waveform, being able to see both of them at the same time and be able to understand what it is I'm looking at. Do you understand this at all? Okay, so this is the amplitude. This is how loud it is. Mainly, the blue, the waveform section. But this section down here is what the frequencies are that are being used. And so you can actually see the frequency range here, and it is exponential. It gets, this is 20,000, 15, 12, and so these are longer and longer waveforms as you go down. But this is like all the bass sections. So you can kind of hear, it's not a good sound, but you can hear that that's using that lower end of the frequency spectrum to give that audio. Usually what you'll see with spoken word, silence that. Again, an is really low. It's down here. It makes sense that it would be somewhere in the 500 to 100 range, because it's down deep down in our chest. But when you get into actually spoken word, you have some of that in the undertones, but most of it you have a whole lot more of this upper frequency. Okay, and that's where they had some edit issues. Go ahead and silence all that. And if this is where they notice that things were going bad, this is where we're going to stay. Okay. So I'm going to save that. Oh, cancel. I don't want to overwrite the original. Okay. And then I will work on the other one this afternoon when I get back. Another 30 minutes or so. At least this. Okay, so episode 102, the previous one before this one, for the same people, they gave me an hour and 45 minutes of raw content. Through content edits that I did initially and the notes that they gave me, got it down to 130. Whenever I did the audio only version and removed all the ands, ahs, and filler and false starts and things like that, and did the really deep dive into the audio side of things, it ended up where the final runtime of the audio version was an hour and 15 minutes. We took 30 minutes of audio off of content off of that raw recording, and it took me 10 plus hours. So it's pretty intense sometimes, but it's amazing what we can do. Yeah. Well, and I'm not like, I would love to produce this type of content and show this in a condensed format, but who has time for all of that? Like, I don't have another hour and a half, 2 hours, bare minimum, to go through what I've just done in the last 2 hours of streaming, roughly. Almost 3 hours of streaming. I don't have time to go through that and cut out all the good chunks, because I'd have to review it like section by section to see it. So it is what it is. That's kind of just the nature of it. Let me go ahead and save this as a new file in here for Seth Part 2. And then I'll come back to edit that whenever I get back. Thanks for hanging out with me. This was fun. Good. I'll be doing more of this probably as we go. There's a cool tool that I'm just not sure. It's called Gather.town. Someone in one of the groups, whenever I was talking about like doing online co-working, suggested that I look at it, and it's kind of so. Okay, I'll bring it up because it's just really hard to describe. I kind of made a free account and created a space to work in, and I'm calling it Duckett Production Services Virtual Office. But it literally, you have this like avatar. So I have my avatar on the screen over here in the cafe, and you have all of these carpeted areas. When I walk into that carpet area, that becomes a private space. So someone could walk into that private space and join me in that space, and we could share video and audio, you can see my little thing over here in the corner. I've got it muted, it turned off right now, but they could join me. So the same idea is, in a co-working space. So say I take over one of these conference rooms and I step on the rug for this. Well, actually, no, that's just a public space. It looks like. I haven't played with. Oh no, it said that was a private space. So this whole room is a private space. So anyone in this, so I could technically camp in here and then share my screen, and anyone in that, in the room, in the virtual room, would be able to hang out with me, and it has voice chat, and they could see what I'm seeing and things like that. I think it's an intriguing idea. I'm not sure it's right for me and what I'm wanting to do, but it's. Oh, that's exactly what the graphics are like in this case. It really is. It's very much that way. But then you have these spaces that are like, okay, this is just me. This nobody else is in this space. I'm just going to work here. So you have the ability to kind of go into community spaces, all that type of stuff, and be able to have this space where people can join you and work collaboratively or work. Alongside each other. And I think it's just it's an interesting idea. I'm not sure how practical it is, but it's still cool. Like, you could actually have somebody parked at the reception desk for somebody to walk in, and you could direct them to where they need to go. That it's just really kind of ridiculous and awesome at the same time. But yeah. Yep. Yep. That would probably be a great use for this, is to teach somebody what Office Like can actually kind of be, because it is. We had a thing in the Kansas City area, and I'm not sure how widely spread this type of thing was, but we had what was it called? It was called. Oh, I don't even remember. But basically, it was the downside. It was like the basement of a government building in one of the in one of the neighboring cities, and they had this entire city set up with like a city park area, a bank, city hall, court, a newspaper, small businesses, and like everybody from like a grade level would go in there, and they would take on jobs. I was in the newspaper, and I helped to, part of the reason they placed me there, of course, was I had a technical aptitude, so I could sit at the computer and actually do graphic design at that point, things like that. And they had helpers that like knew how to use the applications that could help. You had parents that came in and came alongside and helped as well. And it was a really fun event, but it taught you how it was kind of fun to have a job and how you could create something. And then from working every hour or two, you would get money, and you use that money to buy things at the snack shop or to buy other goods from other stores and all of that type of stuff. And so it was like you would be expected to make a bank account and be able to write checks. It was just really a very practical, one day, hands-on, this is how the real world works, and all of that. And I believe they're still doing that to this day, which is really cool. Yeah. So it's really they're still doing that to this day, I think, from what I've seen. Okay, well, I'm going to jump off of here, get a few things done before I need to go to get my beard trim and head shaved, and then you'll see some posts from me on why that somewhat matters today, because I'll give a hint. I've regained a little bit of weight, and I want some motivation to make sure that I move towards getting it back off. And so I will be I'm going to post something to my Duckman Keto here in a bit saying, yeah, that was the last beard trim and head shave that I'll be getting for a while. I'm not going to do either until I reach XYZ goal, and we'll see how long that takes. But I don't like very much how I look with hair right now, because it's thinned out enough that That's why I'm shaving it, and so it will be adequate motivation. I'm certain. So, okay, let me stop streaming. Yeah,